Hi, and welcome to the 5 Minute Business Boost, where you get to choose your 5 minute investment. I'm your host, Sam Hicks, and I'll be discussing topics under the headings of business development, marketing, photography, and much more.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Business Boost. I'll try to keep it under 5 minutes. This week I am talking about our creatives again. So this is around the art of selling. So this is monetizing your creativity online. Because we all know being creative and running a creative business are two very different things. That's often the biggest shock for artists. You can create beautiful work, have incredible talent, and still struggle to build an audience, sell consistently, or even explain what you actually do to people outside your creative circle. Because let's face it, anybody that's creative, we just get it. So over the last 12 months, so this was 2025, I was fortunate enough to deliver a range of hands-on workshops for artists through Yay Arts and other creative sessions across regional Victoria. And the most interesting thing I found is most artists are not struggling with creativity because they have that in abundance. They're struggling with visibility, confidence, consistency, and business basics. Not because they lack the talent, because nobody really teaches artists the business side in a very practical or human way. And honestly, many creatives have had enough of hearing phrases like build your brand from people who've never sold a painting, stood at a market stall in the rain, or tried to photograph artwork under a terrible kitchen light at 11 p.m. at night because they've got an impending deadline. So here are the 5 of the biggest takeaways artists can learn from the workshops like these, I suppose, without me giving away the whole playbook, because, I really want you to come along and join in on a workshop. But here's a bit of a hint. 5 of them. Number 1, your art needs a story. It's not just a price tag. One of the biggest mind shifts for artists is realising people often buy the story before they buy the artwork. Now, this doesn't mean inventing something dramatic or pretending every painting represents emotional turmoil under a full moon. It simply means helping people connect. Why did you create the piece? What inspired it? What materials did you use? What does the process look like? Now, I'm not talking about giving away IP, people. Just what does the process look like? And why does this style matter to you? Buyers out there, especially online ones, are looking for connection. They want to feel something. Their story becomes part of the value. In workshops, we often talk about how social media is less about selling art and more about inviting people into your creative world. Now, this might be a quick video of brushstrokes, a messy studio moment, works in progress, framing decisions, colour palettes, inspiration from the local landscape, market day setups, and even the FUBARs, the disasters. And yes, people, I don't know, must there's something about us Australians as a society, we love the disasters, anything that makes your connection to everybody else human. So artists sometimes think they need that polished perfection online. In reality, audiences actually connect more with authenticity than perfection. Number 2, your phone camera is probably better than you think. This one usually gets a laugh in the workshops because many artists own incredible cameras but still use badly lit photos online. Or they've gone out and bought themselves the latest device only to find out they're really not getting the benefit out of it. I even had one gentleman come to one workshop who bought out a $100 phone that he'd purchased, but he had a good background in photography and his photos were really awesome. So, good photography matters enormously for artists. Your artwork might be incredible in person, but online, if that image is dark, crooked, blurry, reflective, or poorly cropped, people are just going to scroll past. But the good news is you don't always need expensive equipment. Modern smartphones are remarkably capable if you understand a few basics. And the biggest one, of course, is natural light is your best friend. Reflections are definitely the enemy. Backgrounds matter. Straight lines matter. Editing should enhance, not destroy. And sometimes just the simple black and white photography style can work beautifully for a mood or a detail. Now, one of the biggest practical lessons artists learn is how to photograph art consistently. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be consistent. Because why? And I keep banging on about this, but consistency builds professionalism online incredibly quickly. And yes, every workshop eventually does include somebody lying on the floor trying to avoid reflections in framed artwork. No, I'm only joking. It is an occupational hazard, but I have seen artists go to the absolute extreme, hanging off stairwells to get huge textiles photographed. But anyway, I digress and again. Number 3, social media doesn't need to consume your life. Yep. Facts. Artists will often fall into 2 categories: posting constantly and burning out, or disappearing for 6 months because they just don't know what to post, or they've gone on a sabbatical, or they've headed away for workshops, or they're traveling. Neither approach works particularly well. One of the strongest lessons from creative business workshops is understanding that social media should support your art practice, not replace it. So, folks, you don't have to dance on TikTok. You don't have to post every meal. You do not have to become a full-time content creator. But what you do need is a rhythm. Simple, repeatable content works best. So again, works in progress, finished pieces, market reminders, exhibition announcements, short videos, detailed photographs, studio snippets, creative thoughts, frequently asked questions, and behind-the-scenes setup. Okay? Artists are often surprised to discover in these discussions that audiences actually love process content more than polished final pieces, because people enjoy seeing how things are made. We're curious little folks, people. And importantly, you don't have to have every post sell something. Some posts just might be simply building familiarity and trust, and that matters more than most people realise. Number 4, pricing is emotional, but it still needs that structure, people. Pricing artwork is one of the hardest conversations in any workshop because it's deeply personal. And often artists I see and have known about and work with, because they undercharge. They're comparing themselves to others. They're lacking confidence. They forget the material costs. They don't value your time, or they worry people won't buy. The reality is, if your pricing doesn't sustain your creative practice, it becomes very difficult to keep creating long term. And workshops can help artists begin to think about pricing with a little bit more structure. You think about all the things that go into that piece: materials, time, experience, framing, commissions, packaging, market fees, travel, digital costs, and website costs. And yes, for some, wine or coffee consumption during this creative process. Because all of it, at the end of the day, all jokes aside, it contributes to the business. And artists don't need to become accountants overnight, but they do need to understand that sustainable creativity usually needs sustainable income. And that's not selling out, that's just survival. Now, number 5, small business skills matter more than most artists realise. So here's the truth. Creatives quietly discover that running an art practice often means running a small business. So this includes communication, customer services, invoicing, marketing, planning, network, photography, email lists, social media applications, and sometimes learning entirely new technology and apps. And you must get your business side in order to, jump onto Business Victoria's website and see all the templates and find out what your commitments are running a small business, such as having an ABN and all those things. Now, I know for some artists this is going to feel massively overwhelming, but workshops like this can help you to create something valuable, and that's really around community, okay? Because when you come together with other creatives, you understand that you're not the only person struggling with Instagram captions or websites or pricing confidence or imposter syndrome. We all have it. But that shared environment matters, because creative people, we often work alone unless we're teaming up with other creatives regularly through an arts group or something like that. we often are little silos. And sometimes the most valuable thing coming together in a workshop, so I'm encouraging you as creatives to look out for local workshops or go to your local government or your local community centre and suggest that they get the local community artists together to do a workshop, because it's really about that dissemination of information, and it's also that reassurance that other artists like yourself are navigating the same challenges too. So, final thoughts, the big wrap up. The creative industries are changing quickly. Artists today are just not makers, they're storytellers, they're marketers, they're photographers, communicators, retailers and community builders all at once. Because like most small businesses, or like all small businesses, even though it's exhausting, it can be empowering, but you're wearing so many hats. But I look back to my early creative career, and I look now, artists and creatives have so many more tools than ever before. And we've got new ways of reaching audiences. You know, we can build communities online. We can build communities locally by attending workshops or membership groups or art groups or painting days or whatever. And you can actually work on creating a sustainable creative career, especially if you live in regional Vic. Because a lot of creatives either do art as their full-time and then have a side hustle, or the other way around, until they're established. And you don't have to put that pressure on yourself when you're starting out. You don't have to master everything overnight. You just need to start learning those pieces in the big jigsaw of small business to pull together, because really it's about getting that creativity that you have and the pieces that you enjoy making. You need to make sure they're visible. So that's it for today's episode. If you'd like me, Sam, to deliver a workshop for artists, makers, galleries, community groups or creative organisations in your region, either in person or online, get in touch. You know, pass my name on to your local government area or your local shire and say, hey, let's get Sam in. Because sometimes a few practical skills can make a very big difference to creative confidence. And if you're an artist out there, please keep creating. We all love your work. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Business Boost. For more information, follow me on socials, sign up for my newsie, or check out my website to see how we can work together to reach your small business goals. Remember, anything is possible, especially in the northeast of Victoria. Until next time, cheerio!